Welcome back with Mrs. Struble. Today, we're going to solve multi-step equations. Our goals here are to learn how to simplify expressions by combining like terms and by using the distributive property. Then, we'll be able to solve multi-step equations. Here is the steps for solving multi-step equations. First thing we're going to do is we're going to need to learn how to simplify each expression. Now, just a reminder, when we're dealing with equations, they're actually made up of two expressions, one on either side of the equal sign, that are in fact what we call equivalent expressions. Okay? So, to simplify these expressions, the one on the left and the one on the right, we're going to need to do one or more of the following. Maybe we'll have to combine like terms, use the distributive property, evaluate exponents, or even evaluate radicals or any other operations we can come across. After we have simplified the expressions on each side of the equal sign, we can move on to step 2, which is undoing the addition or subtraction that's being done to the variable. So this is taking care of our constants and getting those isolated on the opposite side from the variable by using our addition and subtraction properties of equality. That being said, if we see that there is something being added to the variable, we're going to undo that by subtracting. And then if we see if there's something being subtracted from the variable, we're going to go ahead and add it back in. After using the addition or subtraction property of equality, we're ready to move on to step 3, which is undoing the multiplication or division that's being done to the variable. So again, using that multiplication or division property of equality, very similar to what we did with the addition or subtraction. Finally, we can go ahead and check our answer using substitution. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. We're going to start off with a basic two-step equation. The example is 3x plus 15 equals 24. And the directions say to find x. Step 1 is already done for us. Both the left and the right-hand sides of the equal sign are simplified expressions. So we can move straight into undoing the addition or subtraction that's being done. Okay? This combines the constants together. So moving up here, we see that it's adding 15. To undo that addition, we'll end up subtracting 15. And what we do to one side, we do to the other to keep that subtraction property of equality balanced. Okay. We bring down what's left. So over on the left-hand side over here, we've got 3x. And then set that equal to 24 minus 15, that's 9. Okay. So that takes care of the subtraction or addition. And that's step 2 again. So step 3 was taking care of any multiplication or division. We see the 3 and the x together. When they're like this, that is automatically multiplication. That means multiplication. Okay? So in step 3, we see the multiplication of 3. We're going to end up dividing, doing the inverse. So we're going to end up dividing by 3 to undo that multiplication. Okay, so dividing by 3, the division property says I have to do it to both sides. So I'm going to divide by 3 over here. What happens? The 3's on the left-hand side, they cancel out. The 9 divided by 3 is 3. So we have x equals 3. Now let's check. If we're correct, everywhere I see an x up above here, I can put a 3. Okay? I'll evaluate that expression for x equals 3, and I should get equal to 24. So here's the expression, 3x plus 15. Again, everywhere I see x, so 3x, I'm going to put 3, plus 15. And now I'm going to evaluate this. 3 times 3 is 9, plus 15, that equals 24, which is in fact what we wanted. So it checks out, x is equal to 3. Our next type of example is what will we have to do if the expressions on one side is not fully combined. So it's not fully simplified. We have what's called combining like terms to be done. So if we take a look at this example, 8x minus 6x minus 25 equals negative 35. In this example, we see automatically there are two x variables. So we know that there needs to be some combining involved. Now, sometimes you might see something different. For example, instead of negative 35, you might see negative 30 minus 5. Just because they don't have the variable, we still need to combine those. Those are what we call constants. So we're just going to combine them, simplify that side into just being negative 35. Okay. So combining our x's, back over to the left here, we have 8x minus 6x. And again, 8x means 8 groups of x. That's multiplication. So we're going to draw 8 x's, 8 groups of whatever x is, and then we're going to take away 6 groups of those x's. Or we can think of it as 6 negative x's. So I'm going to draw 6 negative x's. And this is kind of just to show you what's going on here. Now we're looking for what are called zero pairs. We see one positive x and one negative x. Together, whatever x is, x minus x is going to equal 0. So they end up canceling each other out. Here is another zero pair, 0. And we just keep going until we have nothing else to cancel out. Then whatever's left is our answer. And we see that there are two x's, both positive, that are left. So our answers to the combining of these like terms is going to be 2x. Another way you can look at it, maybe an easier way rather than understanding what's going on, is just to look at the first numbers. So we have 8 minus 6. So 8 minus 6 is 2. And then the x just kind of tags along. All right, after combining the like terms, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and rewrite everything down. So we have 2x minus 25 equals negative 35. Now we're ready to actually solve the equation because both sides of the equal sign are simplified. Okay. So again, we're going to start at the addition or subtraction. We see subtraction. We're going to end up doing the inverse operation, which is addition. So we'll end up adding 25. What I do to one side, we'll do to the other. Okay, these 25s cancel out. We are left with just the 2x on this side equals negative 35 plus 25, that's negative 10. Last step is, not the last step, we still got to check. But we see multiplication here. X is still not by itself. So we're going to do the inverse operation, which is division. And we're going to end up dividing by 2. Get that 2, undo that multiplication by dividing. Okay? The 2's on this side will cancel, equal 1, equaling 1. And 1 times any number, doesn't matter what x is x. Negative 10 divided by 2, negative 5. So x equals negative 5. Okay. Finally, we're ready to check our answers. So everywhere we see an x, we're going to put a negative 5 up here at the top. Once we have substituted -5 for x, we'll evaluate this side of the expression, and we should end up with -35 as an answer. That's how we know this equation holds true. So 8 times x, which is minus 6x minus 25. Notice every time I said x, I put -5 because that's what we think x is equal to. Okay, so now using our order of operations, multiplication goes first. 8 times -5 is going to be -40. Minus 6 times -5 is -30. Minus 25. And now all we have to do is add or subtract from left to right. We see that -40 minus -30, and that double negative actually becomes a positive. So it's -40 plus 30, which is -10, minus 25 is -35. So it holds true. -35 is equal to -35. Let's do another one, but this time one where we need to use the distributive property in order to simplify the expressions before solving. Okay, so we have 2 times the quantity, 1 minus 5x plus 4 equals -8. To solve this, we have to use the distributive property first and simplifying this side of the equation. Okay. So in the distributive property, the 2 gets distributed or handed out using multiplication to each of these. So 2 times 1 is 2, and 2 times -5 is -10. Okay, so now we can write everything else down. -8, and then we notice that this still is not simplified. So 2 minus 10x plus 4 is still not simplified all the way. We can combine the 2 with the 4. These are our constants. We need to combine them. So 2 plus 4 is 6. Okay? And then the minus 10x, we did not write, or excuse me, we didn't do anything with that. So it's just going to kind of fall down. Now it can fall in front of the x or behind it. It doesn't really matter. I honestly prefer to put the x variable first. Okay, so I would normally write -10x plus 6. Some of us will find that 6 minus 10x is easier to understand, which is fine. Okay? Whatever way works for you. And set that equal to -8. Make sure we don't forget that. Now each side of the equal sign is simplified. Let's solve this two-step equation. Okay? We're going to undo the addition by subtracting 6 from both sides. Those 6's cancel. We are left with -10x. Down below, and then we have -8 minus 6 is -14. Okay. Last step, undo that multiplication by dividing by -10. Well, we do to one side, we're going to go ahead and do it to the other. Okay, and yes, do not forget that negative. It's a common mistake to forget that negative, but we want to go ahead and get rid of that too. So we end up with x is equal to negative divided by negative is actually positive, and 14/10, that doesn't work out even. So we actually end up with either a fraction or a decimal, whichever you prefer. If you're going fraction route, okay, you have 14/10, which is 7/5. In other words, 1 2/5. Okay. All right. And then you can go ahead and always check by substituting 1 2/5 up here for x. All right. And once you do that, you get 5 times 1 2/5, which actually cancels out to equal just 7. Okay, so inside the parentheses, we just have 1 minus 7, which is -6, timesing that by 2, and that's -12 plus 4, and that's how we get -8. We have a correct answer. Why don't you go ahead and give this a shot? So pause the video, like I've shown you, write down these 7 problems, try them, and I'll be back. Now that you've paused and tried these problems, let's go over the answers. For number 1, you should have gotten the answer z equals -2. For number 2, z equals -2 again. And for number 3, x equals -3. For number 4, you should have gotten n is equal to a -1/2. Whether you write a fraction or decimal, doesn't matter. And then 5 is equal to -5. 6, we have x equal to -1 1/2. Okay. Number 7, what was nice about number 7 is those decimals, they really canceled themselves out. So it was really nice because we ended up with d is equal to -1. Okay. All right, so in this video, we practiced how to solve multiple step equations by simplifying each side of the equal sign first, and then finally being able to solve for that variable. Thank you for joining with me, and I hope you have a wonderful day.